There is a sixth sense beyond that which is known to man. It is a sense that is as sought after as the Holy Grail and as precious as immortality. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and entertainment, and it lies at the pit of a man's fears and the summit of his genius. This sense, of course, is a sense of humor, and this is Sense of Humor TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Sense of Humor TV. Today we have a really special guest, another comedian on the docket, keeping it funny. Our guest today, Grayson Taylor.
Hey, man. How's it going?
What's up, man? I haven't seen you in like 2 days.
Yeah, that seems like...
Cheers.
That's about it. 2 days.
So, quick intro on Grayson. He's another comedian that lives out here in Los Angeles. Met him during some open mics. We'll get more into our meeting and hanging out throughout the podcast, but met him at our last guest, Sean Porter's open mic. So, you guys have a little bit to go off of there, knowing Sean or watching the last episode.
Matchmaker Sean.
Matchmaker Sean. That's what we should start calling him. I was messing with him, calling him my comedy godfather, and I don't know if he liked it.
Yeah. He is, yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for coming on the show today, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's super exciting. This will be the third episode. I don't know. I love how I left the Xbox controller. If you're watching on the thing, I got the Xbox controller still out.
Seems fitting.
Yeah, we're some gamers out here. But yeah, so again, you guys know the vibe. Just getting into some fun questions, funny stories. Just try to make you guys laugh and see what if we can tickle that sense of humor of yours. I guess I'll start with. So you're obviously a comedian. We'll get into there. That's how we know each other. But did you move out to Los Angeles for comedy?
I would yes and no. Like I knew, like, when I was applying for jobs, I wanted something like decently stable as a day job that could bring me out here.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So like I heavily applied in and around LA, and so landed one, and so I kind of knew, like, on coming out here, like, okay, well, comedy is a main element. So it's like technically my job's out here, but like I really also came out here for comedy.
Okay. And did you come right from Iowa, or was there?
No, I was in Arizona first. That's where I started comedy. Yeah, I was living in Iowa for a while. I was a reporter, I was a journalist out there, and then I went back to grad school at Arizona State. Go Devils! and well, mainly because I just wanted to get out of the Midwest and I wanted some better weather. And so I probably didn't think too hard about what I was studying.
So funny.
But I was like, I can do this. And so, I started out in Arizona, and then actually moved out to LA for a little bit during graduate school. And then I fortunately didn't do stand-up out here. And then moved back to Arizona, kind of kept up with it. It was one of those things where, like, I started it when I was in Phoenix, and then did a little bit of it. And then
did the pandemic get in the way? Or were you already in LA by then?
No. So I spent the pandemic in Tucson, Arizona. So my family's from there. And so I kind of moved there while I was applying for jobs, got a job out here, and then the world shut down. And so I spent about a year and a half in Tucson, but I picked it up again in Tucson and kind of got into the stand-up scene there.
And how long were you out here before the pandemic hit?
Well, I was only out here for like 4 months during grad school. That would have been like the fall of like 2019. Okay. And then I was like set to move here like within a few weeks. This would have been like February 2020. And then the world shut down. And so
you did grad school at USC?
I did grad school at Arizona State.
At Arizona State, okay.
Yeah. No, I could not get into USC.
Yeah, me neither.
I work at USC. That's the way that I can ease
I can
my
get a
way.
job application, but
yeah, I can get a job there just fine. You know, that's why I'm like, I don't know if I could even teach like what I studied at USC. I'd be like, why do you want to learn from me?
Yeah, that's fucking funny.
You guys are more qualified than me at everything.
If you're watching the video, I'm wearing my USC hat just for Grayson, because obviously I'm not. If you watch the other two episodes, I'm not smart enough to to get in there or had enough money to go there. So
Yeah, it's a bit of both.
yeah, it's a combo. But
Also, I want to point out that I was drinking way before we started this because it makes
Good.
it seem like
Good.
within like a minute into this podcast that I just crushed a tall boy. So
that makes it so much better because I did have a beer in the shower as well. So,
Okay, there we go.
So
There we
we're loose. We're loose, people. Hopefully you guys are drinking too. I mean, I feel like if you watch the first 2 episodes, it's pretty much but like I was editing the episode with me and Sean today, and halfway through the episode, I totally forgot I have like a straw like cowboy type like Raiders hat, and I went and got it and wearing it at the end of the episode. Completely forgot that I was wearing it at the end of that episode. So yeah, so things will get they'll get a little messy for you guys towards the end, especially at the end of the first episode. I was rewatching. I was like, I was definitely slurring a little bit. So good episode. But so now the timeline. How long have you been in LA now?
Just over a year.
Okay, just cheers.
Yep.
Me too.
Cheers.
Cheers. So of the 3 places you lived, how's LA fold out for you?
It's weird comparing them. They're very different, all of them. I mean, it's almost like each step got me like maybe like more prepared. Like for LA, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I could have just come from like, I mean, maybe I could have. I mean, even though I grew up in a town of 7,000 people, you know, I still before that my parents had lived all over like big cities and stuff. So I wasn't like, you know, just some small town like what's the world like that type of person. But I think moving directly, like if I'd have moved there right out of college to LA, it probably would have been maybe a little bit more intimidating. But then it was like moving from Iowa City to Ames, Iowa to Des Moines to Phoenix, and then eventually LA. So it's like I worked my way up gradually. But now I'm at a level where like I don't know, going back and trying to live in my hometown is just not gonna happen. Sorry to any of my friends.
Yeah,
back
sorry to
home
break that news
listen
to you guys.
to this. You heard it here first. I'm not moving back to Eldridge. So
1 second, I'm gonna cut this.
cut the AC on one of the hottest days of the year.
I know. See what we're doing for you guys for the entertainment value? They're probably like, we couldn't hear anything. That was
By the end of this podcast,
We're
we're
gonna be
just
just-
like
yeah.
we're just drenched in sweat. Like
yeah. If you guys make it to the end, we're gonna be just drunk and sweaty.
yeah, the sweat's killing my buzz, man.
But that's why I pumped it. Look at that number over there, 69, baby.
There you
I was
go.
pumping it
Nice.
till you got here because I anticipated it, but then of course I forgot to turn it off. So that's where we're at. But yeah, I guess I can see that they're just like so different that they're kind of hard to compare.
It's night and day, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that I've always been someone that's a little more. I have some of like the traditional maybe like Midwest qualities, you know, can kind of talk to people and stuff like that. But like I've also living in other places, living overseas for a little bit, you get very like good at just being like, oh, I'm just gonna stick to my own.
Where'd you live
stuff.
overseas?
When I was growing up, we lived in Germany for 2 years.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And so German people are very, it's very different from the Midwest. You know, Midwest you're gonna get hi, howdy neighbor. You know,
They're like the French in that nothing like the French, but other than that, I'm sure they're kind of like just like fuck off, let me have my day.
Yeah, I think it's considered like culturally weird to like walk around and smile and say like how are you? Like that would be something.
I remember I
over there,
left
if you
it-
ask how they're doing. They're just gonna be like, what? You don't care. I don't know you.
It's like tipping in France. Like they got mad at me for tipping the one time.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's a big one because I think it's like they pay their employees like.
Oh, they pay them a livable wage. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like they pay them enough so they don't need to be tipped. You know what I'm saying? So
How old were you when you were living over there?
I was like junior high age.
Was it a military thing?
No, my dad works for John Deere, so
Okay.
shout out John Deere. But that's
you-
probably the most Iowa thing.
I was just gonna say you become you become more Iowa in my eyes, like as the days go by. It's
every
time we
sentence,
talk, yeah, like literally,
But no, that's what moved
I
us
love
to
it.
Iowa. My dad got a job with John Deere,
And you were originally in New Orleans.
born in New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah, here I'll go through the quick map real quick. Born in New Orleans. Then we moved up to South Bend, Indiana, so my dad could go to Notre Dame.
Okay.
And then moved to Memphis, Tennessee, which none of us like, so we got out of there. And then we're in Toledo, Ohio, for about
Toledo. That's where my stepdad went to college.
at the
Yeah.
Was it Glass City or
Deontay
something?
Johnson, baby.
that we were there like maybe 2 years. I think that was more the fact that the company my dad worked for was like going under. And like, it's like he got there and then they're like, yeah, we're bankrupt. And he was like, all right, I'm going to look elsewhere. And so,
There's a lot of places to move.
yeah, I moved around a lot growing up. And then it's like we moved to Iowa in like '01. And that was pretty much where I grew up.
Okay.
Besides the 2 years where John Deere sent him to Germany and then we came right back.
So there was like an 8-year period where you were moving a bunch.
Yeah, I think I like calculated it. And even when we were in, it was like when we moved to Iowa, it was like we were there 4 years or so before we went to Germany for 2 years, and then came back. And then I was in high school all 4 years in my hometown, then went to the University of Iowa. So there was like a stretch there where I was like, I don't think I've lived in a place for longer than 4 years in my life.
That's crazy.
Know? Yeah, I was just moving so much.
It's crazy too, because I've been saying, you may have heard me say this, like, if I live here, which is looking like I'm going to, but if I live here for another year, it'll be the first time I lived anywhere more than a year since high school.
Yes, I do remember you telling me that. Isn't that wild? It's
Dude.
wild to think about. Well, you get so used to it. You get so used to moving that you're like, whatever can fit in my car kind of thing.
I got to it was like weird when I was just like, I literally went down to my landlord and I was like, hey, do I have to like do anything? They're like, no, just keep paying rent. I was like, oh, okay. Like,
So-
I like didn't even know how to like stay a place for more than a year. I was like, I thought you, or, like, I was
Pretty
just,
simple, man. Just
yeah,
keep paying.
I was so ready to just like be like, oh no, you have to sign all these papers, and like they're like, no, we already have all your information. Just,
Get suspicious of you. He's like, why?
yeah.
Why are you asking? If
You haven't found the meth lab in my apartment?
Yeah,
yet?
exactly.
That's literally how I
You guys can't smell this? You can't smell it, really.
It is nice, like, you know, it's been definitely nice to live in the same place for, you know, more than fucking a year. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's already been like a month, but it's just like, it's already been like, okay, this is.
Well, yeah, it's just nice to, in a way, maybe lack of a better term, kind of let your guard down. Just be like, this is where I am. This is where
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be. This is home, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's another thing. Is like, so much of my stuff is like scattered across America. Like,
Yeah.
like my girlfriend was just messaging me. She's like, yeah, my parents said they found like 3 bags of your stuff when we were moving. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, 3? It's like, maybe 1. I was like, well, I have no idea what's in those bags. Like,
Yeah, you're like, what's in it?
and I was like, is it mine? She's like, oh, yeah, this hoodie, this thing. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I was wondering where those were. Like,
Dude, mine's the same way. Stuff scattered between here, Arizona, and Iowa. Like, that's pretty much. I think that's it.
and so, like, what grade were you so were you in middle school or high school when you got to Iowa? You were in middle school, right?
When we first moved there,
Yeah.
When we first moved there, it would have been like 2nd grade. But then we
Okay.
left for Germany, came back, and I came back like at the tail end of 8th grade.
Was it still the same kids, like same school district? or-
Yeah. So what the difference was like I went to a school district where it's like all the elementary schools are apart and they all come together.
That's how mine was.
for junior high. We were also I don't know why, but our school district was named after astronauts.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's like I went to Alan Shepard Elementary School, but we had like Ed White, Neil Armstrong, John Glenn, Virgil Grissom.
And you had one elementary or one middle school?
One middle school,
Okay.
the North Scott Middle School. Shout out North Scott, I guess. But yeah, and that's the funny thing that they were all named after astronauts. I don't believe any of them are from Iowa.
None of the astronauts were?
No, I just think they were like, this sounds cool, right? And they just did it. But I went to Arizona State. I went to the Walter Cronkite School. Cronkite didn't go to ASU.
That's fucking funny. So we had 2 middle schools, and all of our elementary schools were after presidents, except for mine. They were all male presidents, and ours was Julia Ward Howe.
Like, you guys don't.
Legend, Julia Ward.
Wait, all after presidents. It's not like they were gonna run out of presidents.
Oh, they
right?
could have easily. Yeah, it was very.
They could have picked one.
Yeah, and the best part is like when we finally got to high school, we would have like spirit assemblies, like for big football games, you know, and stuff. And then we had like big contests, and they broke you up by your elementary school. And all 4 years, Julia Ward Howe won. All 4 years I was in high school, like we just whooped the shit out of all the other elementary schools. And
Still looking back, you're probably like, you couldn't have given us like a Grover
the
Cleveland
funniest
or
thing is,
something?
unfortunately, sorry, I don't even know who Julia Ward Howe is. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't either.
To
I'm
this
sitting.
day.
I was really hoping you would explain it to me because I'm sitting there when you said that.
The funniest thing is that I'd always go like,
oh, okay.
I'd always be like, she's a saint and she's a scholar, and I have no idea if she was either. She could have been a devil woman that, you know. Like,
You start looking her up. You're like, oh, she's problematic.
yeah,
she's very
They're
problematic.
gonna cancel Julie Ward.
What was your high school mascot?
Sick, the Blue Devils,
Oh, you're the Blue Devil.
which was real sick. Like our high school uniforms and like jerseys and stuff are awesome. Like still to this day, they're
the
like
copy Duke.
so like it's even better. So they copied Duke for the Blue Devil, but our colors were like Pitt's colors, like the blue and yellow of like Pitt.
Oh,
So it was like
okay.
real sick. You know, like we had these sick devil horns on our thing.
Yeah.
And I remember it's funny you asked this. We had a new superintendent that tried to change our name. Okay, we've had this name since 1920. They tried to change it to the Green Leafs, which made it even funnier because all of us were just like weed, immediately.
Oh, okay.
She tried to change it because she said that the Blue Devils was satanic.
Oh, there's a lot of that.
And
yes. Yeah.
she didn't last a year as superintendent. Everyone turned against her. Everyone was
Imagine
like,
that.
we're the goddamn Blue Devils, okay?
Had a mutiny.
Yeah.
You were like,
Get
nah,
Julie Ward out of town.
She's got to go.
Yeah.
Julia Ward is rolling over in her grave, and then someone chimes in like, she's very much alive.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay, well, she's rolling over somewhere. She's not happy with this.
Literally, though, yeah. She tried to change it, and she lasted like 6 months.
Blue Devils is a good one. We one of our Davenport Central, one of our schools in our conference was the Blue Devils. They were like blue and red, and I think for when we played them back then, they just their logo was like a DC,
okay.
Davenport Central. But then they started adopting the ASU trident, and then they had that big thing coming over the helmet, and I was like, that was cool.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like our baseball hats had like an upside down, like because we were Mount Lebanon, so they had like the upside down trident as like an M,
like the Mariners.
Yeah,
like the old
like
Mariners
that, yeah.
logo.
It was
okay,
sick. It was yeah. So like our high school gear was dope. Like I have to say, it was
nice.
It was definitely really.
Ours wasn't. I wouldn't say. No, we were the Lancers, which fine. It's just like it's average. The football helmets we had like big lances coming across, so that was kind of cool. But we had Ohio State's uniforms, and I despise Ohio State. I'll go on record and say I despise Ohio State. And so, and then we had Ohio State's colors and Notre Dame's fight song, and we were the Lancers. It's
a good week to do that because. If you're watching this, they were filming this right after the Notre Dame Ohio State game.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in that. Yeah, I'm still a big even though I work at USC. My dad's a big ND guy, so I grew up an ND fan.
The old Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame. I'm used to it, man. It's like it's one of those teams where you just don't expect other people. You're surprised when other people do like them.
Yeah, I just Pittsburgh's such a pro sports town that like no one really gives a shit as much about college out there. You know what I mean? Like Pitt basketball was like really big for a minute. But after they left the Big East crumbled, it was kind of like,
Well, I'm assuming like waves, right? Because like Pitt, obviously, when you had like Dorsett and Dan Marino, I mean, championship.
You always hear people talk about that same thing with like the Pirates. People are like, everyone who like loves the Pirates is like, 100 years old because they're like, we had Billy Stargell and Bill Mazeroski.
Yeah, that's a great stadium though.
You can't say anything to a Pirates fan about a cool game or a cool play if they were alive during that. Because if you bring up anything, they'll just go, yeah, well, it's still not better than Bill Mazeroski hitting a walk-off homer in the bottom of the ninth in the Game 7 of the World Series versus the Yankees. And we'll just be like,
you're probably right. You're
probably
right.
I know.
You don't have to just stop.
I know.
Yeah.
They have one winning season in my life. Okay, can I be happy about it? Like, Jesus Christ. Like
old fans like that for sure, especially when they can remember. I mean, like I grew up with a lot of Cubs fans, so it was nice that they couldn't remember. You know what I mean? When they're just like, when you're like, that was a great play. Like, it probably was better than anything.
All right, go to bed, Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. And they won in 2016, and then it was like, most of the state went pretty nuts. Iowa's pretty big. It's a mix. Cubs, Cardinals. Few stragglers that are Royals and Twins fans, maybe a few Brewers fans sprinkled in there, but it's primarily Cubs and Cardinals.
I do want to backtrack a second because I did have some questions about younger Grayson.
Okay.
So did you Sandy, who's there? Everyone knows Sandy, our mascot / puppy, resident puppy. She's playing with her toy over there. She'll probably be in camera soon, hopefully, because I know the fans want to see her. But so when you were growing up, like, were you like a fan of stand up or like when did that kind of kick in? Was it like something later in life or like were you just like a fan of funny movies or?
Yeah, I think it was mainly like funny movies. Now I probably got a lot of my
Sandy, come here.
Sense of humor and that's from
it
was a mix of my dad and my uncles on my mom's side that like, I still grew up with my dad like listening to like Rodney Dangerfield tapes probably tapes at that time. And
Sandy, come here.
My dad was a big fan of like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and like classic
Two classics,
comedies.
yeah.
Two classics, yeah. And as far as stand up though, like it was probably like Chappelle's Show. Honestly,
dude.
Like once Chappelle's Show came out, and I love the sketches to this day. I still think it's like the best sketch show ever made. But like that was when I saw the sketch with the stand-up, and I think that was so new to me that I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is stand-up. I mean, obviously I'd heard of it and like seen like, I think I was probably sneaking off when I was like younger and watching, Chris Rock and comedians like that. And, but yeah, that was when it was kind of planted in my head. And I'd watch old SNL and stuff
Were
like
you
that.
like a Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey kind of movie kind of guy?
Yeah, yeah,
too?
I loved
Cool.
all those movies. As a kid, though, I'd probably say those were all.
The
like,
Chappelle Show stuff makes sense though, because I remember like it was the same thing with like me and my brother got it on like the whole season 2 on DVD or something like that, and we would just piss our pants laughing. Like,
Yep, that was me. It was that and South Park. Honestly,
South Park too.
And to this day, South Park is still my favorite, probably my favorite television show.
It's funny. I remember the first time I ever saw South Park. I was visiting my cousins out in LA, and I was like,
really?
"What's this?" And then I was like, "Wow, this is different." Like,
Yep, I think for me it was like a taboo thing because my parents, like, I forget why, but like my parents they'd seen it like one episode, and my dad was like, "You're not watching this."
Dude,
and
that's
I would keep it from me, but then I would go over to friends' houses, or like I'd stay up late and go down and like sneak in episodes, and maybe that's what like added to it, was the fact that like I'm not supposed to be watching
dude, we used to
this.
do that same thing for South Park, wrestling, because wrestling was on too late, and you remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yeah, that claymation show on MTV.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we'd sneak down late and watch wrestling, then watch Celebrity Deathmatch, watch an episode of South Park, and it'd be like 1:00 in the morning. And then I remember like we'd be listening to it with like almost no volume because it'd be like we'd be sneaking to go do it, me and my older brother.
Cause you didn't want.
My mom would be like so mad if she knew we were like up watching that shit.
We had a basement, so it was like you couldn't hear. What was great about our basement was that it was unfinished. Well, it's still unfinished, and it basically looks like
It was never been finished.
It's never been finished. It's my dad just turned it into a sports bar basically, and so like, but the thing is like, because the stairs weren't finished, they creaked so loud.
Dude.
So, and you could hear that door like open. So if I was down there watching anything like South Park, anything I shouldn't, that. A lot of other stuff.
It's funny how relatable this is.
Right, but then like you'd hear it and go up, and then you'd switch it immediately. Like, so that was nice. It was like thanks for not finishing the basement, Dad. Now I have if you'd have put carpet down here, you could have splinter celled down here and caught me doing anything.
That's the funniest thing is like, so my parents, our basement was like our playroom kind of thing, and our TV. And then when we got to high school, they ended up making it into a bedroom kind of thing. So then my older brother got it when he was in high school. Then I got it when I was after him. And then my little brother got it. So it was like turned into all our bedrooms at a certain point. But like when we were younger, it was like, so it was the same thing. It was a basement. It was like just boards as like the steps. Basement and like room. We had I remember we got to a science where we knew if we walked on the side, if you walked in the middle, it would just, real hard. But if you walked on the side, it wouldn't creak. So we would like, we got it down to like
smart.
Yeah, and like same thing, the door was real fucking loud, but it's so funny because these are like memories I completely like, forgot about, honestly.
Dude, so I always wanted the basement room, and my dad literally was like, "That is my sports bar. You are not taking that from me, okay?" And I was like, "But my friend," he's like, "I don't care what your friends have. That is my sports. That is my drinking and football sanctuary.
Yeah.
And someday you will appreciate that as well." And then like when I turned 21 or even a little before that, I'd come home and just like, Dad would have a fridge full of beer, and we would just watch football, and like that was, or he's got his old records down there, and so like just staying up till 4 a.m. listening to old vinyl and drinking whiskey or something like that. So that's what it became, So now I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's what you were going for, Dad. I get it.
See, my intro was like so early too because my parents were divorced, and my dad just, I don't think he ever understood that I wasn't as old as my older brother. He just always thought like I was. Like,
that's good. Doesn't.
So there was no like I was like seeing shit like it was even early for my older brother. So like, and he was like, you're his age. I'm like, I'm 4 years younger. Like, I'm not. like, and like I remember we went to go see whenever the second American Pie came out. We went to go. We were talking about American Pie before the show.
We were talking about it right before this.
But when the second one came out, which is still like 2002, like very early. Like I was like, I was like 8 years old, maybe like 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And he took us to a back-to-back drive-in to see the first one and the second one. And like I just remember seeing like tits. Dude's fucking a pie. I'm like, what is happening? Like I didn't even know what masturbating was. I was like, what is he doing?
You're just like, whoa. I jumped from Shrek to this.
Literally,
okay?
overnight. Literally overnight. And
there was a lot of this that was not covered in Shrek.
I was so confused. I was just like, I was like pumped, but I was also like, wow, this is a whole new world. Like, of
dude,
shit.
For sure. My uncle was that way with me. My mom's my Uncle Frank. he was the one that would like take me to see like Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me when I was like
Great.
6 years old, and like he would take me to see all these movies that I probably should not have been watching at that age. But then it would also take me to see movies that like he wanted to see. Like, like he was just he's kind of a dirty old man in a way. So he was like, I want to go watch that movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez. It's a movie about domestic abuse. So like, why is that your turn on? And he was like, J-Lo's in it. So I want to go watch that. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Uncle Frank's taking me to the movies. And I sit through this movie about domestic abuse. And he leaves it going like, that was all right. What'd you think? And I'm just like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah,
like, why would you take
I don't
me
want to go to the
this?
movies with you anymore.
Yeah, and I'm still a kid, and I remember like I think telling my mom that like, yeah, I went to see this movie with Uncle Frank, and she was like, why would you take him to that of all movies? Why would you take him to that? And she's like, you're taking him to a kids movie next time. And I think when I think I had picked like Spy Kids or some bullshit like that, and I specifically remember going to see Spy Kids and leaving, and my uncle looking at me and being like, I don't care what your mom says, you are not allowed to pick movies ever again.
Dude.
And I never did, ever again.
Do you remember the movie, Girl Next Door?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
Yes, with Alicia Cuthbert.
Yes.
And oh my God, what's the name of the guy? He was in that.
Oh, he's in everything.
Into the
Timothée
Wild.
Chalamet. Or Timothy.
Not Timothy Chalamet.
No, Timothy.
He's way too young.
Yeah, it's Timothy something, though.
I thought it was Emil.
I think it's Timothy something. It's
Now I think you mean the main guy from that movie, the main.
Oh no, I'm talking about the porn director dude that like gets him in all the trouble. Like he was in Tarantino movies and like he's in a bunch of shit.
Oh, isn't it like Timothy like Oliphant?
That's it.
Like, okay,
not Chalamet. All right.
I was like, well, Chalamet is like 25
Timothy Oliphant.
now.
Thank God you said it because I was literally gonna pull out the. I mean, we had the computer. I was about to search it. But
yeah, because I was wondering. I was like, I think Emil Hirsch, because that was the guy from Into the Wild. So I was like, oh, that's the main guy.
Yes.
Okay.
So and
But
you know, like that movie's a
director.
full on like it's about making porn. So it's like dude. I saw that movie when it came out, so we're the same age. I was probably like, I mean, less than 10 years old, right? Like 10 years old, maybe.
Right, yeah.
And I sat through that with. So, since like I said, my parents were divorced. Like every weekend when my dad would pick us up, the first thing we'd do would go see a movie, and it would be one week my brother would get to pick, and one week I get to pick. One week my older brother get to pick, and then I get to pick. And we went to go see that movie with my dad and my brother. I'm like 10. My brother's like 13, 14, right? And just the most awkward 2 hours of our life. I'm watching a porn with my dad and my brother, basically, right? And
He's better dad than mom.
100%. But it was just so awkward and just so like, you know, it was very hardcore R, you know, and I was 10 years old. And so I just remember like we didn't say anything the entire movie. And then we get out and the first words out of my dad's mouth, he's just like, so August gets to pick the movies from now on. And I was like, yeah, because my older brother's the one who wanted to see it.
Your older brother's like, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, my older brother's like,
I thought it was a pretty good movie.
He's like, I need to go home now, but it was pretty good.
That's the way it was. Well, so my funny enough for me, it was like my dad was always a little pickier than my mom. Like my mom, like she was the first person I ever, and to this day, I look back and I go, that was wild. We probably shouldn't have. But I watched The 40-Year-Old Virgin with my mom, and it to this day is like both of our like favorite comedy.
That's
ever.
cool.
Ever. Like my mom will still.
Do you think you get some of your humor from your mom? Like,
yeah, well, from her side of the family, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because those were the uncles that used to, you know, like, so that's my mom's Mexican, my dad's white, and so the Mexican side of the family was very like, I mean, I don't speak Spanish, but I didn't learn how to speak Spanish because my uncles would like make fun of how I spoke Spanish.
Hey, this is second show in a row we have someone who's mixed on, so the diversity on Sense of Humor TV. We're going. We had a white guy on the first show, but hey, we're moving better.
Your podcast, a goddamn
how
United
did your
Nations.
So how did your parents meet? Were they both from Iowa? Or
No. My parents met at the University of Arizona. Mm. My dad he has a longer journey to get out there, but because my dad was born in New Jersey but raised in Savannah, Georgia. Okay. And my mom is born and raised in Tucson. Only one of her siblings born in the States. And so they were both happened to be at the U of A at the same time, and that's how they met.
Did you grow up religious? Or they were like religious, or
they're both Catholic?
Both
yeah,
Catholic.
But I wouldn't say they're like hardcore about it.
They're not Bible thumpers, like
no, not Bible thumpers at all. I mean, they go to mass pretty regularly, and then my dad's like, part of some different church groups, but like I would not. They're not people that are like, did you do your Bible study? Like that was the thing. I mean, maybe like growing up Midwest Catholic is that like you go to church. And that's maybe the extent of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like we have Bible study. It's almost the Catholics were just like, what? Like what? Like why do you got to study it? I go every Sunday. Why do I got to study it? You know
that was a thing like with us. Like it was. I didn't grow up like going to church. I started going on my own later, which is like weird.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
that is different. Yeah.
I used to go without any of my family. Like it was weird. Yeah, it was a weird time.
Well, yeah, I think anybody. Well, if you're Catholic, you kind of go through.
Yeah. And it's also like it was kind of like I was young and like had a bunch of like trauma with people dying, and I was like trying to figure out my life. I think a little bit without like, and I was like I don't want to go down the path of drugs and alcohol and like.
Yeah, that's true. But like both sides of the family are Catholic, but like my uncles were both like they go to well my uncle Frank passed like probably like 8 years ago now, 6 years ago, and my uncle Greg's still alive, but like. Both of them were like just I mean more or less degenerates, but like they would go to church pretty consistently, so it's amazing the shit they would say to me, but then also be like, you got to go to church, and I'm like, you just tried to steal money from me, and they'd be like, yeah, well, you know what, and God forgave me for that, so move on. Like I guess that's how it works.
That's like the funniest part too, is like my dad was like, I don't know, it was like weird, like my parents were like very like they believe in God. My dad had like his Bible and shit and would like be all about, but like at the same time it's like, I told you a story, like my dad had pictures of like Fidel Castro that he's with him and like the most random like, and like both of my parents met in like Narcotics Anonymous, like.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be saying Fidel Castro. I was gonna be like Cuba.
Yeah, no. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But it's just like it's a weird like God's good, this, that, and the other, but also I used to do drugs. And it's like,
did they get really religious after that?
I think it's like I swear to God they like make it a part of just AA and like NA. They're just like God is gonna help you through this.
I think it's very intertwined.
Yeah, it's very intertwined.
No one. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been anytime someone's gone to AA and they're just like science is what's going to help you get through this.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone's ever been like,
no,
I am not strong enough, but through science I am. It's just religion's
you
easier.
and the Lord.
Yeah, God's easier. It's an easier
100%.
one to throw out there.
I think that's 100% what it is. But so like, I guess in high school, was it like I'm sure it's like most high schools where like, you have like sports and everything like that, like playing sports, like I did that too, but it was like, were you like, I don't know, did you find it fun to be like the funny kid in class, or were you kind of more quiet?
Oh, yeah. No, I was definitely high school. Well, even before that, probably junior high, like late elementary school is where I was like, okay, I like being class clown.
Mm-hmm.
But like high school was where I was able to like, I don't know, maybe like hone it a little bit more, or kind of be like, I'm going to use it in everything I'm in, whether that's, sports or classes or whatever. Like I'm going to make sure that I
incorporate
getting the laughs here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I got voted class clown when I was a senior, and I was kind of like, that's all I want.
Really? That's funny.
We had weird, like, I'm sure you guys had it in the yearbook where you have like,
superlatives or whatever.
Superlatives. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, we randomly had like biggest piece of shit car and like nicest car. And there were people that were like, I want to win. Obviously nicest car. No one wanted to win biggest piece of shit car. But then there was like, best smile or like most athletic and all that. And I was just like, just vote me class clown. That is all I want.
That's fun.
That's all I care about. I don't care. And even my parents were like, you didn't want to go for like most likely to succeed. And I'm like, not at all.
No,
not at all. Just give me class clown.
That's funny. And were you all, like you said, you were always kind of like that, but then you honed it in more in high school?
Yeah, I'd say I like honed it more, even though I never did. There was like a kind of like a Whose Line Is It Anyway kind of improv group.
Love Whose
at
Line.
my high school. I still love it. Like that's still one that like I can throw on just YouTube compilations for my dad and I, and we will just sit and drink beers and watch that for hours. And it's still fun.
That's like a thing with like me and my older brother. And like I guess my younger brother too. We'd always just like watch that show, and like
it's great.
My one buddy Derek, who I used to work with the Penguins, like his bio is just like, welcome to the account where the points, the jokes don't matter.
Yeah,
and, like, he literally, that's his like Twitter bio, and I know he'll watch. He wants to come on the podcast, and he'll love that we're talking about his line because it's like every time I talk to him, we talk about it.
Dude, it's great. It's I know that there's all like a weird thing with stand-ups and improv and stuff, but like I don't know. When I first like dabbled within like performing comedy, it was improv, and so I have an appreciation for it.
Let's get into that actually, because that was kind of where I was gonna go next. Is like, when did you like? Was it in college that you like kind of thought like maybe I'll try stand-up eventually, or like was it always kind of in the back of your mind like that'd be something cool that was to do, or did like something happen? Or
Yeah, I think I never did like anything with comedy in college. Surprisingly, I think it was like I was probably way more concerned about just like laughing and hanging out with my friends and playing rugby. Like that was kind of the main stuff I did in college, and so I guess grades too. But like, I guess we'll throw that in there too.
That's why we're here right now.
But going to that's why we're here right now. Like I went to. People ask me, they're just like, "Oh, you went to Iowa? How was that?" And I was like, "I had fun." I think when I was there, I don't think we ever dropped below the 4th biggest party school in the country. So like, it was a good time at the University of Iowa.
I mean, everyone from Pennsylvania literally calls my college I usually party because it's Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I mean, it's literally just known as I always joke that it's harder to graduate there than it is Harvard because our dropout rate's so high.
Well, you're like, there's a lot more obstacles.
Dude, we have a 70% dropout rate.
70% dropout rate? Oh my
Only
God.
30% of the kids that go there actually graduate. Dude, how funny is that?
That's pretty great.
That's
a pretty good.
It was hilarious
statistic.
because like it was a thing between me and like I told you, my college roommate is like my best friend growing up, and so we would just always joke like, "So you think blah 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 is coming back this year?" And they would be like, "Nah," like, literally.
Dude, I knew kids like Iowa. I don't know what the dropout rate was at Iowa, but it was. I did my first year going there. There was a lot of kids from my high school that went to the University of Iowa, and then within a year or two, I was hearing about them like back home at someone back to my best friend or one of my best friends. We roomed together when I was a freshman at Iowa, and he went back to junior high or not junior high. Sorry, no, he didn't have to go back that far. But
you must have fucked up. I'm in college. I don't care, buddy.
Iowa was like, we've made a terrible mistake. You should not.
My best friend's name is Billy Madison.
Yeah, Billy Madison. No, he had to go back to junior college. That's what he had to do. He had to go back to, or not had to, but he chose to, because he was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just partying a lot. And so he ended up going back. And I hope that's how it happened. I don't know. Like, I hope he doesn't listen to this and be like, that's not what fucking happened, Grayson. Like, I had to take time off. And I'm like, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, he drank too much. You know what I mean? No.
He's like, my grandma died.
Yeah. He's actually more of the responsible one. I was the one that probably went out more. And like, I remember one time we roomed together my freshman year, and I went to it was one of my first rugby parties my freshman year. And then I come back, I don't know, it's probably 2, 3 in the morning, something like that, stumbling in. And we had those bunk beds, right?
Yeah.
That you have in dorms. And so I knew I was like, I'm not feeling the best.
Keep my feet on the ground.
So no, this was the drunk mind. I was like, okay, I'm going to set a trash can on a chair next to where where I sleep. So that way, if I got a yak, I can just turn over and just waterfall it into a trash can. And I missed very badly. I woke up the next day, and I don't know where I thought I was sleeping, but I set it if this was the bed, I set it about where my knees were.
Oh my God.
And so my roommate at the time, he just heard this splash. Just hit the carpet, and he just woke up and looked over and was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was just half asleep, hunched over our bunk. If I had gone I would have fallen off the bunk. And so he is super mad at me, whatever. And so
Get over it.
He also so he just called up one of my friends. He had an exam the next day, and he called one of our other friends and was like, Grayson threw up all over the room. I have a test tomorrow. I need to sleep. And they're like, all right, come up here. And he crashed up there. And so, but he didn't bother to lock the door. So I didn't know I threw up till in the morning. A friend of mine in the dorms walked in and was like, hey, Grayson, you want to? And then I kind of rose out. I was just like, huh? And he was like, you puked there. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, just make sure you know, buddy. And then he left, and then I had to pick it all up, And he was he didn't talk to me for a good few days. He was not. He was
You would have
not
loved to
happy
be
with
my
me.
roommate because, dude, my roommate, Caleb, the same kid I'm telling you about. Dude, we used to call him Pukey sometimes. Like, literally, dude, I'll never forget the one night we come back.
It's a bit on the nose.
We had a big dorm. Yeah, right. We had a big dorm freshman year. Like, 'cause anyway, I did all this research and we lucked out with this corner room and it was only us two and like we had a kitchen and everything. And so the one night we come back and Caleb's drunk, passed out, kind of same story you were telling, and you know those like circle like beanbag chair type things, those little like half circle beanbag chairs. Yeah, he had like one of those, right? And it's like set up in front of his bed, like on the side of his bed with like, I'm talking everything that could be of value to him. His laptop, his phone, his wallet, like everything is sitting in this beanbag chair. And me and my other buddy Charles, who also graduated with us, shout out Charles, me and him were just like playing 2K, like drunk, like late night, right? And he's sound asleep for like half an hour, thinking like everything's fine, and all of a sudden, same thing. We just hear like, what? Like we just like hear that.
It's a sound, you know,
dude.
Yeah.
He set up this chair in the worst spot. It was right, like he's sleeping on his side, and it was right in front of his face. He threw up on all of his shit, like everything of value to him, right? So then we're laughing, and I had to be like, yo, Caleb, like wake up, dude, like you got thrown up. And so he wakes up. He didn't realize what was going on. And this man's an animal. I love him. He's my best friend. But like
best way. That's when you know someone's a fun hang, when you describe him as an animal.
He's an animal. I used to call him a creature. He's a creature. He's in my phone as Reek, if you know Reek from the Amateur.
Yeah.
And so he literally wakes up and I'm like, yo, Caleb, like you just threw up on all your shit. And he just wakes up like so crazily, looks up at me, sees threw up on his laptop, just grabs it and starts wiping it off with his bare hand. And just going,
oh my
just,
God.
and the next morning I wake up, same thing. Like I had like test the next day or something. I go to class, I come back, and I just hear like the toilet running. So I'm like, oh, he must be awake. You know what I mean? And I walk in, he's just in his underwear, just like scratching himself, just looking around the room, all confused. And I just go, hey man, he just looks back and goes, you threw up last night. He goes, I fucking know.
You
And
ain't shitting.
I just go, did you make it to class? And he goes, no, I'm going back to bed. But when you were telling that story, I was just like, oh yeah, I have.
Dude, we've all been there.
I have many a
all-
tale that are.
all been there. Yeah. Going back, what was the original? Oh yeah, you asked about like improv.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, and then
Well, yes. I said,
were comedy
you?
and
Yeah, in college.
diverted into
This is good. This is what podcasts are for.
into
This is what I want.
Yeah, story about throwing up. But no, I never really like did a whole lot in college or really anything with it. I'd always I think thought about it, and then it was like once I graduated, and then I wasn't playing rugby anymore, and I was just kind of working a regular job, and I had friends that were like, oh, why don't you come play, play for the Des Moines Rugby Club, like come play for the men's team, and I was like, I'm not driving like half an hour to get hurt. Like I'm not driving half an hour to get. Not that I would have gotten my ass kicked. I mean, I would like to think it was would have been an equal amount of me kicking ass versus them kicking my ass, but still like driving to that. Like every other day, I was just like, that doesn't sound appealing to me. But I was like, I always wanted to dabble within comedy. Like, I'd had friends that were like, why aren't you doing like stand up or doing something like that or sketches or anything like that? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And so
easier said than done.
Easier said than done. And I think with me, so when my uncle, I will say like maybe a sad turn in a way, but like when my Uncle Frank died, I think that was like a big, because he was such an influence on my humor that I was like, okay. He had always kind of, pushed me to like, or at least said like, you need to like do some type of comedy. You need to be in something like that. You know what I mean? Because like, I always thought his like humor influenced me, but he was always like, you always make me laugh and stuff. You got to do that. And so like, I think when he passed, then I was like, okay, maybe now, I'm tired of holding back. And so, but with stand up, I didn't really know. And also I was in, Des Moines, Iowa at the time. And so there was only like a handful of spots to do like stand up, but like improv was like, it seemed to have a decent scene there, like a decent amount of people that were involved. So I was like, I'm going to get involved in that.
Was it more of, or it could be a combination of both? Was it more of like he died and you kind of realized like, oh, like life's short, I should like take advantage of this? Or is it more of like, oh, I want to do it because like he would want me to do it?
Definitely a mix of both.
Mix of both.
Definitely a mix of both. Yeah. And so I think that played, that was a huge factor in like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. But I started with improv because I didn't really know what else to do. Like, I don't know, stand up. Like I was like, I haven't written anything. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just take a class in improv and just see what that's like.
Was this down in Arizona?
This was in Iowa still. This was in Des Moines. And so there was a theater that did it. And I was like, okay, well, this is more about me, trying to be like hone the natural funny, I guess. And so, which obviously you still have to work at it. I mean, you can say all my friends say I'm funny, and then you go and it is a lot, as you know, it is a hell of a lot different when you're just shooting the shit with friends at a bar, and then they're like, you should do stand up, and then you're like, okay, now I have to transfer that persona and why that is funny to something a complete stranger would find funny.
And those are the stand-ups that drive me crazy in the scene. The ones that think they can just go up there and tell stories that they tell their friends and it's like, no, you need punchlines.
You need
absolutely.
You could tell a story, but if you start, that's the one thing I feel like I've always cringed a little bit at, or know when someone's a little bit newer, is when they started with so this one time at an open mic, and you go I don't know you, I mean, now, okay, you go to some mics or some even shows where someone's on with a bunch of other comics they know, friends. I got a bunch of friends, and then they maybe feel comfortable enough to do that. But
it only works when because people, I feel like people always try to emulate their favorite comedian, and
yes.
It's people only care that because that's Dave Chappelle or Bill Burr or
yes.
someone that they're like, oh, it's funny. I want to hear a story about Bill Burr going to the store of Bill Burr's 5th grade class.
Yeah, I want to hear how he's gonna describe this, because I've heard him for 20 years take a little story and break it into actual punchlines and jokes and stuff like that. So it is, yeah, it's way harder, a lot different. And so that's why with improv, I was I think that might be the easy, in a way, the easier way to kind of just be okay, it's an easier way to hone maybe the natural, whatever the natural comedic timing, whatever you want to call it. And so I did that for a while. And I started by just taking a class. Then after the first or maybe second class, I auditioned for their house team, and then I made that team. So I was performing once, sometimes twice a month, something like that. And then that club closed, and then we were just trying to find spots to perform around the city. And then since then, another comedy club has opened up there, actually by one of the guys that I used to do improv with in Des Moines. I think it's Teehee's Comedy Club.
Okay.
And it's in South Des Moines, I believe. And they're just south of downtown. And so, but at that time when I was there, it was this mix, right? Or it's in between time where the other theater closed, the new one hadn't opened. Where are we performing? What are we doing? So I kind of done a little, improv, even sketch, even podcasting work with a group of mine, but then it's hard to coordinate, and finally I think I just got to a point where I was I really just want to account for myself.
Yeah, dude.
I don't want to worry about other people.
It's interesting that you said the whole thing about your uncle, because you're the first person I've talked to, honestly, that kind of similar, where and it's kind of in two parts for me, where it's I kind of when you, it kind of goes back to everything you were saying, I was always funny in school, but I was always too careful and too scared of my parents, you know what I mean, to kind of fully be as funny as I probably should have been, you know what I mean, because I was oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, you know. But then when my dad died, I was kind of it kind of gave that well, I don't give a fuck, anymore. So then I was I think that's when I became my friends were always oh, this is really funny. After that was
yeah.
But I grew up with a bunch of funny kids, so it was you know what I mean. But
yes,
I think I stuck out a little more, you know what I mean, because it was the more shit you were willing to do, the funnier you were, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And there was kind of that I didn't really, because I was always way more I was more afraid of my mom, I guess, but my dad was scarier, if that made sense.
Okay.
My mom would get more mad easier, but then if my mom, especially because they were divorced, if I did something bad enough so I never really did that much of bad shit when my dad was alive, because my older brother would do a bunch of bad shit, and then I would see my dad literally made my brother eat a whole bar soap, and I watched.
Oh, that type. Yeah.
Yeah. Old school, mean.
Well, you're still from that era.
Yeah.
Where right.
My parents were old too. My parents are old. My stepdad is in his 70s.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, it was old school punishments. So I was scared. So I'd be oh. So then after he passed, I was just well, I'm not really as scared anymore. You know what I mean? So that was part of it. But then the big it's funny I was already doing stand up. I'd already done stand up. But the big get back on my horse and this last year that made me really been kicking ass this last year was Norm dying. Weirdly enough. Because
Yeah, I
like,
remember we
I just
talked about
had
that,
such
yeah.
a weird connection with like his weirdness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was more of
yeah.
just like, and I'm not saying I'm going to be. I'm never saying I will be. But it was like more of that like we need more people with like that kind of humor in the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how it can be like one little thing that might seem insignificant to a lot of people, but
Yeah.
that's what kind of is like the catalyst for you.
Yeah, like literally, I did my first Mike and Flappers like I think 3 days later or something.
Yeah. Because when did
He died last year, and then
within this last year or 2021, right?
2021.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, and then I did mine in like November. I think he died in October. And I was back home in Pittsburgh when he died. I remember. And then as soon as I got back to LA, it was like I'm gonna like do this.
You know, weirdly enough, like now that you're bringing that up, I think of like when Robin Williams died. That was a big one for me.
Dude, it's funny we're bringing this up. Have you seen his bit about golfing?
Yes, it's fantastic.
Dude,
yeah.
my mom. I was talking to my mom the other day.
Yeah, he has a Scottish brogue.
Oh, dude, it's so funny.
It's great. That's one that like my roommate in college, my buddy Bryce. Shout out Bryce.
Oh yeah, Bryce.
He used to. We love that bit.
Dude,
like,
that's maybe my favorite bit. He's like pool. Oh no, a little broken stick. We're gonna put the hole hundreds of yards away. Little gopher hole.
Yeah. Call it a fucking stroke.
Yeah, because you're gonna have a stroke.
Yeah. No, that was great.
With a little flag to give you hope.
Yeah, man, that was.
You do this one time? No, 18 times.
Yeah.
Dude, I sent my mom that bit the other day, and like, cause I was bringing up something, and I was like, she was talking about golf, cause I like just got some clubs, and she said, and I was like, I have to send you this, and she was like, that is maybe the funniest thing I've ever watched, cause she actually saw him live one time back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she was like, it was the hardest I ever laughed, but like I couldn't. She was like, talk about like no timing between his jokes. Like she's like, I literally couldn't breathe because like he gave us no time to like get a breath in between like laughing.
Yeah, that's like so my dad's favorite stand-up is Rodney Dangerfield, and he never got to see him, but his like my dad's best friend saw him and told him that same thing where he was like, I don't remember anything he said because he rattled off one-liners for over an hour.
Rodney
was,
yeah.
And he was like, and I was just like in tears, you know. And to this day, like my dad still like that is his all-time favorite stand-up comic, and it's truly great. I think for me, I think it's truly great because I look at it and I go, wow, not at all, not even just like obviously being that funny, but just stylistically, not at all what I do or what I think I'm capable of or what I could do.
Yeah.
Like that is so unbelievably hard to rattle them off because when you think about the timing of that and you're like, okay, what did that joke take? 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, something like that.
And it was all like so self-deprecating.
Do the math on that.
Yeah.
For over an hour, like that is insanity to think.
You're doing 200 jokes.
Oh yeah.
Like
easy. I can't do the math in my head right now.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, you got me thinking. I'm like, damn, that is like, and that's what made Rodney. Like Norm used to always talk like Rodney was my favorite because like same thing. Like the fact that you could just go on the Tonight Show and just like, kill like that. Like,
I like how we both talked about like the math that would be involved, and now I'm like very curious as to the actual math of that because I feel like someone's gonna listen and be like, 200.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the comments.
You fucking morons.
2,000.
One of you has a master's degree, and I'm like, it's from Arizona State. Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like Sandy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny because like the first ever stand-up I ever heard is Red Fox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first ever stand-up I ever heard was my dad had the straight up old like cassette tapes.
Oh yeah.
And I remember him putting them on one time, and that was the first time I heard like any of those. Like, and again, way too young. I was like 6.
Right.
And he's like putting on, he's saying the N-word. He's saying hoe, bitch, pimp, fucking every. I mean, he was the dirtiest comic probably I've ever heard to this day. And I was just like, and I remember being like astonished, but also like my dad, and him just like listening to these cassette tapes, just fucking in tears. Like,
yeah.
Like. And then Richard Pryor, I remember because when he saw how much we liked Red Fox, he was like, I gotta show you guys this, and he showed us like live on the Sunset Strip, and like to this day, that's my favorite stand-up special of all time. Like when he's wearing the red suit, you know what I mean? After he just got done fucking. I mean that bit he does about when he shot up his wife's car. And he's like,
yes.
And he's like, yeah, like, felt good after a couple shots. And he goes, and the cop showed up. And he goes, I took my ass inside because they don't kill cars. They kill. And I was like, I mean, dude, that was like one of the funniest bits I ever heard in my life. Like, I was just like.
What was like one of the more, I would say, I'd ask more like sets within the or specials within the past few years that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do? Because I think we both talk about having these things we grew up with. We're like, okay, that's comedy, comedy. But I feel like there's also like a catalyst of like something when you're kind of age to be like, okay, I could do this, and you hear something, you go, I want to be like that. I want to do that.
It's funny because and you might agree with me or disagree with me. Like I was just having this conversation literally last night, which is funny that we're talking about this. But the more I've been doing stand up, the less I've been trying to watch specials because I don't want to have like aphasia and like copy someone's shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, because we've seen people out here. Speaking of that one dude that's been, I don't want to say names, but that one dude that's been copying Anthony Jeselnik, I keep seeing him get booked on shit, and it just drives me nuts because I'm like, is no one gonna say anything? Like I'll tell you his name after we get off.
I was gonna say after we get off,
I guarantee you know who he is. Me and Sean have been like, dude, Sean did a show with him the other week, and I literally left the room, and then he's like, dude, you were one of 3 comics that got up and left because of that. But I also was like, there's no way he's gonna do it again. And I was going to the car to roll a joint, and he literally, Sean texted me, he goes, dude, he's doing it again. And I was like, are you? And he's doing like some of his like biggest bits. It's not like some old obscure. I mean,
Jeselnik, like,
dude, word for word. And he's like he's getting booked on like shows. And it's like, and doing Jeselnik's, like, it was one of those things. I saw him at Mount Moore for the first time, and it was like the first couple jokes I was like, oh, he seems like he's trying to be like Jeselnik. And then his ender was like literally Jeselnik's joke of like getting flowers every year. That girl that died on prom, and he's like, oh, at least she still gets flowers every year at the same, you know what I mean? Like, and he literally does that as like his closer. And I'm like, bro, that's, that was Anthony Jeselnik's closer on his last special.
That's gross.
It's gross, dude. It makes me infuriated, especially because he's getting booked for like stuff that it's like, I want to get booked on that. And it's like, you're literally plagiarizing your entire set.
You're a cover comedian,
dude. I'm actually curious if you know this guy because he's a fucking cunt. But to keep going with what we were saying, fucking the aphasia thing. I'm like trying not to like listen to people's special because my buddies are like, they're huge stand-up fans, and they're like sending me stuff, and I'm like, honestly, like, and they're like, oh, we understand, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the last special that I saw that really, really, really got me good was did you see? I don't think it was. I think he might have done one in between since then. But did you see Louis C.K.'s special, his comeback special?
I don't think I watched the comeback. So what year? What year did it come?
It was probably right before 2019, like right before the pandemic.
Maybe.
Dude.
Maybe
it is.
I feel like I would know I was in it, so I'm gonna go.
He has
say no.
He has this joke about being retarded, about the word retard in it.
Okay.
Dude, and it's the best because his basically take is like, he's like, when I was younger, like we had movies about him, we had like all this stuff, and he's like, the thing is like now we're not using the word, now we just like act like they don't exist. You know what I mean? And he's like, now people just say like if you use that word, it's like which I've not, I'm saying it for the bit. Let's just be, in the comments. I'm just saying it for the bit of that he does, but like basically the bit that he does is like he's like there used to be this lady. He goes, there used to be this lady on my street. I grew up in Boston, and she would ring a bell, and she would go, help the retarded, help the retarded, help the fucking retarded. You know what I mean? He's like, you're gonna tell me that lady's a bad person? She's helping the fucking retarded. Like, and then the other part of the bit he has, it's amazing. He's like, and the thing is, he's like, all we're doing really is just changing the word that we're using for it. You know what I mean? He's like, when I was growing up, that's what just mentally handicapped, like that's just the word that vernacular that people use, which I can understand changing the vernacular if it's offensive to the group of people. Like that makes sense to me. But his thing was, he's like, but the thing is like, he's like growing up, he's like, for 50 years of my life, he's like, they'd be like, see, this is Billy, and he's retarded, okay? And, like, this is, like, you need to treat him differently because of this. He's like, so are we going up to these same people and, like, letting them know that we don't use this word anymore? And he's like, so, Billy, listen. So you're not retarded anymore. I'm not? No, you still he goes, oh, I'm not? That means I'm cured? And he goes, oh, no. We're not even working on it. Like, and it's like, it's so true of like, it is one of those things where it's like, I mean, anyway, it's the feelings of it. You know what I mean? But again, it's a great joke where it's like that bit of his is just like, it's just so funny.
He always had a way of like breaking down, like something like that, something where this taboo topic or even just a word that he would break down and be like, okay, you brought me back. You know what I mean?
That's why like a lot of people say Louis is like the best of our generation is because is because of that reason. Like,
you know, I mean, him and Burr does it not to the I don't think extent maybe that Louis does it, but like this kind of like statement. Okay, you're losing us, but you know that he has intentionally put distance between you. And then he has thrown out the last one. He goes, "Nah, I'm gonna bring it back."
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Chappelle kind of does the same thing.
The same thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like this, and I think it's when you get to that level that you're able to like have that, that way of performing where it's like, no, I intentionally push you away because I know I'm gonna.
When I get that laugh at the end, it's that much.
I'm gonna pull you back.
Yeah,
And you gotta respect that, you know. But I think, at least at this stage, you know, you get a lot of people that, you know, whether they're, you know, it's their first show or whether they're, you know, just going to mics that they try to do that and you go like, okay, you have just pushed us away.
Yeah,
like
now everyone hates you. Yeah, now everyone in this room just hates you. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's no rope. You've thrown it to bring me back, and I've thrown it back. Like, nah, I'm good out here.
Yeah, and I like the opposite too, where it's like you say something at the beginning that kind of gets people on your side, and then you at the end kind of like say something that's like that new joke I did. Heidi came up to me after I did that joke where like basically talking about dating in LA or whatever.
Yes.
And she was the one. She was like, I think you're the only guy I know that could call women fat bitches and get away like and make me laugh. And she's like, but then she gave me the reason behind. She's like, you made fun of guys first, then you made fun of yourself, and then you also like think that you're about to say something like more, you know, pleasing about it. You know what I mean? So I was like.
Right.
I was like, thank you for saying that, because that's why I love talking to other comics.
You've pulled us in so much just to toss us back.
Exactly. So that's why I think that I love that style, like for the payoff. But you have to have those punchlines leading up, or vice versa. Like, you know, like even with that bit I was just telling you about Louis, like he gets you a couple different times.
He brings you in. Yeah, he brings you in. What's the rule in terms of side note for this podcast if I got a piss?
So actually this is perfect timing. We're going to take a little 5-minute break, and we'll be right back. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Sense of Humor TV. Just took a quick bathroom break, but we're back with the fun talk, funny stuff. I think when we left, we were talking about stand-up specials that kind of influenced us, and especially some new stand-up specials. And what I was going to say before, I don't even know if it's special-wise, but, like, obviously, this being a comedic podcast, one of the things about podcasting that I'm, like, super into, at least comedians right now, I think he's the funniest guy to be on a podcast is Tim Dillon, if you are familiar with him.
Yeah, Tim Dillon's great.
He's
I love
hilarious.
him. I can listen to that dude rant forever.
And I feel like and it's the same thing with, like, I hope the audience like finds the same kind of stuff in this, where it's like I saw Tim's videos when, like, I feel like he was not as big as he is now, you know what I mean? So it was kind of fun to, like, be, you know, it's like most things where it's like you hear some music and you're like the first of your friends that like listen to it and you're like, guys, gotta check this out, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's maybe not as big a thing now, but growing up for us, I feel like that was such a big thing to be like, dude, check this dude out on YouTube, or like check out this comedian, or check out this like rapper.
Oh yeah, my friends and I still do that. If it's like new music that comes out, I'm always sending it to like my best friends.
Yeah, like that was a fun thing. Like,
and then if they tell me like, oh yeah, dude, I know him, I like him, I go, there's a little part. I'm glad they do. I'm glad they like him. But there's also a little part of me that goes, fuck.
Yeah, I thought it was first.
I didn't beat him.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's how I felt about Tim. If you ever saw his like two little, I don't know what they were like. I the first time I saw him was when he did those little videos about like Jollibee. Do you ever see his Jollibee video?
I feel like I have. Yeah.
He did a video about Jollibee that was like hilarious. He's just like, I mean, I didn't even know what Jollibee was at that point. You know what I mean?
That's a very Southern California thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now I know what it is.
And he was just like, I can get a shot of grave. And you're like drinking gravy and like eating spaghetti with like, I'm like, where is this place that he's at right now? And then he did that pink wall, that influencer wall in LA that everyone takes like a thing at.
Yeah.
And he put like a desk there, and he was like being ridiculous, and out of nowhere, like this like girl walks over and just like flicks him off, and he goes, "Lady, this is a news channel." Like he's like just so seriously, like he's like, "Lady, I'm doing the news." Like
we're live right now.
And he's just sitting at a desk like in front of it. Like,
yeah, dude, I always like hearing it. When I first started hearing him was on podcast, and it's just he could just go off.
It's hilarious.
And it's just one of those things where there are very few people who I'm just like let him rant.
And he's also like he taps into like the funny bone of like like I think what comedy truly is like, and what it needs. I'm hoping it's like moving back towards of like when stuff was just like we're in high school and we're smoking in our fucking friend's minivan and we're just like, yo, listen to this. This is hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
For sure.
we were not. It's not so serious and like that's why Alex Jones is fucking hilarious. Is because like
Yeah. I
is,
mean,
is literally just because like if you take what he said, like what
Yes.
I miss the days when someone was just ridiculous and stupid and you could be like, hey, that guy's ridiculous and stupid. You don't have to like be like when you take people seriously is when you validate them.
Yeah, I think it still happens, but it's like in my opinion, it's like it's weird how it went from just like isn't this ridiculous to like isn't this ridiculous, but I kind of agree. Rather than just and if someone is ridiculous and you don't agree with what they said, then you're like, that's trash.
And it used to be able to be like you could just again when you take someone seriously, you validate them. Which it's like Alex Jones is hilarious because I think being a political pundit is the stupidest, silliest job you could have. I'm sorry.
It is. No, it is.
It's
No,
like
I
at least
agree.
if you're a sports pundit, it's like you're not a. It's like because I'm always the Tucker Carlson's the shit of the world and like whoever else. I'm just like, dude, if you. I couldn't imagine spending so much time talking about something and then not being a part of it. Like it's like it'd be like talking about stand up constantly, and then someone's like, "Well, dude, why don't you go do stand up?" And then you're like, "Oh, well, like the same thing with like politics. It's like, well, if you bitch this much about politics, how about you run for a government or something? Like, what,
Yeah, no,
why,
I mean,
you're
that's
just
a
gonna
good point.
go on TV
Yeah.
and bitch. At least, and like the argument is like for sports, at least like it's fun to talk about. You know what I mean? And, like,
Yeah.
it's but like no, politics isn't fun to talk about. Like,
Well, that's why with these pundits, that's why you got to break it down into like it's entertainment. That's what it is. That's why you can't really consider anything on like Fox or MSNBC or CNN as like news. They're news programs.
and wasn't that their defense in court? Wasn't that actually Fox's defense in court? They got sued, and then they were like, "No, we're not the news. We're like entertainment."
We're news. Yeah, something to that effect.
I think
like a
they
news
literally won in court
program.
on that. Yeah.
Because like it's true. You're reporting it, and then it's not even reporting it. It's like here's what happened in my eyes. Now let me tell you what's wrong with it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where you get past the whole. Because look, bottom line, like with politics and the news, it should be boring.
Yeah.
It should be. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like if you're just like if you're like I'm gonna get my politics from C-SPAN, you're not gonna have a good time watching it. It's gonna be pretty bland. So I think that's more of American society. We want entertainment because isn't
Yeah.
there something like also like Gordon Ramsay? Isn't there something with his? He's not that much of like an in-your-face asshole in the British versions of these shows.
Yeah.
They
Have
like made him ramp it up more.
Oh, dude, have you
for
ever
Americans?
have you
'Cause
ever
we're like we want in your face?
have you ever seen the show The F Word?
Is it the not the?
It's old. It's like an old British Gordon Ramsay show and it's amazing,
no,
dude.
I haven't. No.
My brothers were cracking up because like I stayed with them during the pandemic. Shout out my brothers. I stayed with them during the pandemic, and they were cracking up. They were like, "What is this fucking show?" Because it's like 3 shows and it's the most British television of all time. It would never work in America because it's like 3 shows in one.
Okay.
And it's all Gordon. It's like half the show, and it doesn't like there's no transitions. It will just cut to like the other part, and it's like it will be like Gordon Ramsay doing a cooking competition with like regular. It'd be like you and your, I don't know, like you and your family, right? Versus like these teachers, you know, that work together that like do cooking classes together or something like
So
that.
some type of just group.
Yeah, groups that are like good at cooking, but they're like regular people.
But
You know
they're
what I
just
mean?
but they've teamed up.
Yeah,
in this
and
cooking competition.
exactly, and so
Okay.
that'd be like 1/3 of the show, and then they'd always have like a celebrity like person that's in the dining room that's like because they would do an appetizer, a main course, and dessert, and then they vote like if there's 50 people in the dining room, you want to get as close to 50 is they say they would pay for this at a restaurant for your meal.
Oh, interesting.
And so like
Okay.
then they'll have a celebrity person like that has their family or whatever. Like Ricky Gervais was on the one time, you know, and shit like that. Like,
Oh, so
and-
they get
but-
good celebrities.
good, but it's like, dude, I'm talking like it looks like early 2000s filming. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
so that's like 1/3 of the show, and then it will just cut to like Gordon at his house with like his kids like cooking home recipes, and like the one time he was talking about how he had all these goats at his house and he needed somewhere for them to graze, so he called up David Beckham and was like, "Can all these goats come over to you?" And they were like, "No." And shit like that. Like they had to slaughter pigs, like the one, like, and it was like sad. And so that's like another
You're
part. And
right.
then another 1/3 of the show is like another random person, like so British, you know, like accent, big teeth, like being like, "I'm gonna go to to Downeytown and find this new pigs in a blanket recipe. And it would just jump without saying a word. So I'd be watching it, and my brothers were like, what are you watching? Like,
You're right. That wouldn't sell in America. When you just told me, when like one of the stories was like, David, do you have a place where me goats can graze? No. And that's the end of the fucking story. You're right. That would not hit in America at all. We're just like, no, you guys fight.
And the best part,
Gordon needs to just send the goats there and then graze anyways. Then him and David need to have a fucking brawl. That's what we want in America. Fucking fight over goats grazing. That's what my ancestors did it. I want to see these Brits do it. Like that's how it would go.
And the best part is like you're thinking like 20 minutes down the line, you're like, I wonder what's going on in that competition. Like you haven't seen anything about it in so long.
I want to hear about the Joneses souffles. That's what I want to fucking hear about right now. And you're feeding me this bullshit. Okay.
Oh my god. And it is funny that you said that because he definitely did tone it down for like he would talk to him more like they were like, you know, he would get angry sometimes there, but it was very mild compared to like how he would get angry at like.
Well, my goats need a place.
Yeah,
And he's like,
like-
well, I don't want them to graze.
Oh my god, that's a tangent, but
we could go off.
we just
And-
went talk
and
about
then-
a Tim Dillon rant.
And
We
then,
just
our,
went on one.
and then our British accents, the
Yeah.
more beers will just deteriorate.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if they were good to start with, so we're
Yeah, I
gonna-
don't know if they were good.
yeah. I'm gonna go back and edit this and be like, fuck. We sound
These
so
are really
dumb.
bad British accents.
Yeah.
We can't release this in the UK.
Yeah.
But-
But if you ever get to watch The F Word, Gordon, great show. I'm a
Okay.
big fan. I think you would. It's very like good, mindless, but also like entertaining TV.
okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that. Then.
I'm a big cooking person, show kind of guy. Triple Johners, drive-ins, and dives. I'm all about it.
I do love that because that's not okay. So there's a difference. I like food shows. I don't necessarily like cooking shows.
Yeah, cooking
I-
competition shows. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
I want it
I'm
to be.
out for
It's an
cooking.
enjoyable thing for me.
Exactly. Like I want to watch Anthony Bourdain, R.I.P.
I
wanna
love Bourdain.
watch him
Gosh.
go to different cultures, different
Yes.
countries, and just experience
Parts
it.
Unknown was so.
Yeah.
good,
Parts
dude.
Unknown, The Layover, No Reservations, all of them. I binge watched.
Same thing with
all of
like
them.
Gordon's
Love
kind
it.
of doing Uncharted now, which is kind of like similar.
Oh, really?
And
I
it's
didn't-
very entertaining. Like you
Oh,
should definitely
okay.
check that out too. Gordon Ramsay Uncharted is rare. It's kind of like Parts Unknown. It's very similar.
Okay. I used to, and then it's funny how we talk about like, you know, like Anthony Bourdain and the way he was able to write, and then you talk about Gordon Ramsay, you know, an actual chef, and then we're like, also Guy Fieri, diners, drive-ins,
I
and
mean,
dives.
I'm also a Paisan, so I gotta love Guy.
I you know,
Guy
I
cooked
do-
for the Raiders when I worked there, dude.
He's a big Raider guy. I remember
Yeah.
watching him on Hard Knocks.
Him and Jack Del Rio were boys.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Guy, Guy's the
I do
man.
like that show because that's the places I like. Those are the places I like right there. When he's like diners, drive-ins, and dives, I'm like, there's not a part of that I dislike.
Yeah, like he came to Pittsburgh and went to my favorite place, the Doorstop in Dormont. It's just like we'd always skip school and go there for breakfast, and like they have a fucking
Okay.
most like Pittsburgh eggs Benedict. Like instead of like muffins, they have like this Italian toast that like is like
Oh my God.
what they put permane sandwiches on.
Say less. Man.
Yeah, it's
Say
amazing,
less.
dude. Like,
Dude, he also, I think he went to Des Moines, and they went to it's called Fong's Pizza.
Fongs.
Fong, shout out Fong's, dude. It's a Chinese pizzeria.
I hope so.
It's dude.
I was like, I don't know any paisans named Fong.
Don't knock it till you try it. Crab Rangoon pizza at Fong's Pizza is one of
I mean, you're
the
speaking my language
best
with.
things you can eat. And I know, and of course it would be like in like Iowa where
I
it's
ordered
like,
crab rangoon last night.
Did you?
I swear to God.
Imagine getting them on a pizza.
I texted my girlfriend like the house was on fire. I'm like, what's that restaurant that we get the crab rangoon? She's like,
you
and then,
text her fire first.
dude,
she's like, "Which one?"
she didn't
No,
answer for
don't
like
mind that.
she didn't answer for like 2 minutes. I called her and I was like, do you know the restaurant or whatever?
Now that I have your attention, where
Yeah.
do we get those crab
The
rangoons?
rest of the shit isn't that good there. Their rangoons are like the best I've ever had.
Dude, in the crab rangoon, that's got to be an American thing. That's got to be an
There's-
American Chinese. There's no
You're
way.
telling me a crab ran this good? That's one of my favorite things I ever saw on the internet. So you're telling me a crab ran this good?
Isn't that like the shrimp fried rice? Where you're like, you telling me a shrimp fried this rice? I don't think so.
I don't know.
But
Sounds a little fishy.
you know that's an American. That has to be. Like if you look up where a crab rangoon was invented, you're like, it's probably fucking Richmond, Virginia, or some shit. You
Yeah, I
know?
was gonna
like,
say.
There's no way that they're like, this is from Shanghai. Bull fucking shit. It is. It is not.
Dude,
Like nachos. Nachos are American.
yeah, they are. They definitely are.
Like you can name a bunch of like my favorite things, and they're made in the good old U.S. of A.
Dude, speaking of, to get back on kind of, because we we keep. I love the sidetracks because that's when I laugh the hardest, I think. But the back to like we were kind of saying with the Tim Dillon, effect. I think what works for him and why he rose so quick is like he put like the silliness kind of back in like comedy. You know what I mean? We're like not back in it, but like he definitely puts an emphasis on like I'm gonna just be ridiculous and say what's funny more than like than going up there and being like this is how I really feel about this stuff. And that was like a big influence.
He pokes.
That was a big influence when I started up. Like when I started up again, but like started seriously out in LA. Like was like, okay, you gotta like be funny. There's way too many people doing stand up now that like try to go and tell you how they really feel, and it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. It's a mix of like, obviously what you have your own perspective. Like if you really tap into that, it's like, okay, no one else is going to come up with this because this is me. This is how I feel about this. So I get why you'd have to do that. But then again, I also, for every person that's got a really good joke where you're like, oh, that's a unique take on it. There's 50 people with, so I'm in therapy, which is fine. And more people should do therapy. I agree with that. I'm in it as well. But it's great. But like,
I'm one of those ones that should be.
I don't want to really hear about it as much. Well, I did therapy, but then I did like they referred to it as technically coaching. I don't know if that made sense in my jock bro brain that like they were like, this is coaching, and I'm just like, fuck, all right. Like he's just
where are the pads?
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, and how does that make you feel while you do burpees?
Somebody hit somebody.
Yeah, exactly. You got to coach whatever you want. So I'm very pro, going to therapy and taking care of your mental health for sure. But like, just saying you go to it in a way is like not, to me at least, like
they're trying to say
like
they're
you got to go further than that. You got to go further.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier, I guess, with punchlines, but like also like the silliness of it, where it's like other people were like, I remember, let's just say I got some bad advice when I first started again out here, and it was like basically they were like, oh, you need to talk more about yourself, and I'm like, I don't think so. I was like, I definitely don't think so. Or like I do have like a lot of stuff to talk about that maybe I can do it later throughout the podcast, or like in like maybe when I grow more, you know what I mean? Kind of what we were saying earlier about like I don't think people are going to see what the fuck I actually went. Like they don't give a fuck. It's like which is like I could go up there and just be like, this crazy thing is happening to me, which a bunch of crazy shit has happened to me, and hopefully we'll get into it as this podcast grows. But like it's more of just like I don't know. It's more of like I'm not going to just say it because it makes me different. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people go up there and they try to say stuff that like makes you different, and like no one laughs because it's like am I supposed to laugh at you being different? Like now I'm just like I don't get it. You know what I mean? So I'll say I say stuff. I have a good mix of like stuff that's real, I guess, but not even as much. I'd say maybe like 20% of the shit I say, and the other half the shit I say is like is like a joke completely. You know what I mean? It's actually like a joke that like anybody could actually tell. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, if you look at it, I guess I've always taken that stance, I guess, of like, well, even if you're just like making an observation, that's still yours. Yeah, it's your observation. It's not like, as long as you're not going in being like, what I think the audience will like, then it's kind of like, I think in a way it does have to be in your head of like, this might work in this situation, but I don't think it could be like, what are the times right now? Oh, you know what I should do? And it's like, okay, no, think about it. Do you have a unique perspective? Do you have something funny to say about that? Unless you're just like, what's the topic right now? Roe v. Wade, or what's the topic of that? Like, oh, do I have something to say about that? And then it's like, for the most part, I hear that, and a lot of times people just go into like almost more of like a speech, like a fucking TED talk, and I'm like, I don't want that.
Speaking of there's so much ranting now. There's just so much ranting up there. Like a couple times recently, I've been like, holy shit, like is this stand up, or like what am I listening to? Is this just this person's rant?
That's
but like for me, like, and then you can also make jokes obviously out of like shit that has happened to you, but it's not a full like and I know you have jokes like this too, where it's like with me where like the Vin Diesel joke I have, like that actually did happen to me.
Yeah, well,
but
exactly.
It's like
it really did. Yeah,
it really did happen to me. But it's like I'm playing on like the like, oh, I guess she has a type. You know what I mean? Because obviously he's bald, he's famous and rich, and I'm poor, and I'm
visually,
it's like
you're making clear. Yeah,
exactly. Like that's a good example of like it actually happened to me, but like anybody could really like you know what I mean. It's something that's why I thought of the joke, but it's not like
Right.
why I do the joke. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. I've never said it like that. It's why I thought of the joke, but it's not why. It's why how I thought of the joke, but it's not why I did the joke.
Yeah,
Like-
there we go. That's a good. See, we're working towards that
Yeah.
right now. You know what I mean? Like we're workshopping.
Yeah,
shit,
100%,
basically.
100%. Like that's hopefully one thing that this podcast helps is with writing. Just you think of stuff while you're like bullshitting on it, and then
It's half, dude. I think, and I'm someone maybe because that's like my happy place.
yeah. How do
I
you
don't-
write? Do you sit down and write, or did you used to like? What's your process?
Sometimes I do sit down and write. A lot of it is like if an idea comes to my head, then I will jot it down, but as like notes and stuff like that. I have flat out never been someone that has to write verbatim what I'm going to say.
Never ever.
Never. No, I don't do. I think when I first started, I did. And then now I've gotten to the point where I go, no, I don't, because I want it to. How would I tell it to you if I'm telling it to you like right now? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I want it to flow a little bit more. And some people, I get it. Some people are the opposite. Some people they have to write it down. I remember when I kind of started getting back into stuff when I was in Tucson, and I remember going to one of the mics we used to go to, and I was like it was at like we used to do this mic at a brewery at Borderlands Brewery in Tucson, and it was like right next to a train tracks. And so that was, you would get heckled by the trains. They would come in, and like I say heckled, but like you would get interrupted for sure. And sometimes there were long trains, and so so it kind of made exactly. And you would go like, all right,
Oh,
and you would
fuck.
sit up there, and you would get like 8 minutes. So like a lot of times when that happened, you're like, well, 3 minutes of my time was a train, But like, so before you'd go to since it was at a brewery, and it was a pretty good. Still a pretty good brewery, and I was bullshitting with some friends, and we were going back and forth, and I was like, I like that. I'm going to mess with that up there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, okay. And then I did. I went up and I messed with it, and it got a really good response, and I came back, and one of my friends was just like, all right, man, fuck you. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? He goes, we just talked about that. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's fine. And he goes, you didn't write that. And I was like, well, yeah, I did. I jotted it down on my phone. And he was like, that I meant write. Like, right. I'm like, I don't write things verbatim, dude. I just don't. I don't write full sentences, which is funny because it's the opposite of what I do with actual, like, my work.
Really?
Or what I trained to do. I mean, I was a journalist for so long that you write everything down, and then, with this, I'm like, maybe that's the reason right there, is that I write so much with putting so much detail on it that I go like, I don't want to.
That's funny because I started the same thing, writing it absolutely verbatim.
I started, yeah.
I think it's because you're nervous. You don't want to waste any time out there. Like,
yes, and you go like, this is how I've rehearsed. This is how it has to go. And then once you do it, I don't think you can truly, and I still don't think I'm at a level where I can just be like, all right, well, let's workshop this, like up there. I think I have to go in with like, I want to tell this. But I don't know if that's the exact form I want to tell this in. Obviously for a show, yes, it's tried and true. But you go just to like hang out or do mics. I mean, it's practice. So.
and it's also very like it's weird. It's like a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're confident, it's like batting in baseball, where it's like when your confidence is high, you almost like hit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and people,
Like you don't want to be overconfident, but like going up there and like when you're confident, it's just I don't know what it is. It definitely feels different.
will never go. Yeah, it was almost like, so when I played football, and then when I played rugby in college, it was kind of this mentality my dad drilled into my head of like, you hit them before they hit you kind of thing. And it's kind of that attitude, not like you got to get up there on the stage and be like, I need to insult somebody immediately, like I need to roast somebody, but like kind of get up there and be like, and that's, the stage is the place to do it. Like I'm going to get the first say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the first swing here.
Yeah.
Make it count, and I think that's like super important. I think you can translate it from sports, and again, like I grew up playing sports. So
I was gonna say, like, I bring everything back to sports too, and it's like my dad was insane about me studying Michael Jordan when I was young. Like there was this old VHS of like Michael, and it was all about how he didn't make his high school team, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole thing about that, and he would make me watch that over and over again. And I think that's maybe one of the things that helps me with stand-up is like you're gonna bomb, and like people are afraid to like, you know what I mean? You don't want to bomb at shows, but like at mics, people are afraid to bomb. Like people are afraid to do like new shit. Like I was talking to a comedian the other day, and they were upset about like not writing enough, and I'm like, well, it's more of like, I think you just want to do good, you know what I mean? And you're like afraid of like trying new shit, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm sure you have the stuff and like you can think of the stuff, but I think it's more of like you might be afraid to like to do it because you want to make that room laugh all the time, and it's like you're never gonna like find new material if you don't. And it's like I'm almost the opposite, where like I do stuff too quick, you know. I do stuff like you know, with, you know, I come up with stuff and I want to do it because I'm like, oh, like I get all excited that I came up with it, and then, you know what I mean? I don't like do enough of like doing stuff over and over, you know what I mean? Which is, it's a good problem to have, you know. I'd rather have the material, but like at the same time, it's like now I think I'm finally in the last like month or so, like getting to the point where it's like I feel like I'm getting my material down enough where I could like work on my actual like stage presence way more.
Yeah, I think that. Well, yeah, I mean that's such a. Like you said, it's a good problem to have, having so much material to work with. But like also, you know, you have to be able to. You can't scrap. I'm not a believer in like, you know, I come up with the stuff and then like scrapping it right away.
Yeah.
You know, and being like, it didn't work, scrap it. I have so much. I'm just like, what I try to always take it back to the immediate of like what makes me laugh about that. And sometimes, I mean, I think accepted at this point that like sometimes I may laugh at some stuff that other people just don't.
I usually have
might not
three
see
try
the humor.
3 try rule. I try it 3 times.
Yeah, 3 tries. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit more stubborn than that I keep trying to force stuff and then I go like, I'm scrapping this. You know what I mean?
But you know when you're in like a groove, when you're like, it sucks when you think a joke's gonna kill and it's surprising. You're like, damn, it didn't do good, and then you're like, oh, I'll try it again, and then it doesn't do it again, and then I'm always like, all right, well, I'll give it one more try, and then you're like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? 'Cause, like,
well, you try to work it every way you can.
Like I was trying that joke for a while about, and then I think it's a hilarious joke in conversation, but it's not a stand-up joke about like my girlfriend literally asked me when we went to Comic-Con. She was like, "You want me to dress up as anything?" I said, "Yeah, but a mime." And like I thought it was fucking a funny joke, but like for some reason it didn't like. It's not like a huge. And I just was like, I guess I tried it 3 different times, 3 different mics, and I was just like, it got like a haha, but it wasn't like a. I was just like, I'm not gonna keep it. But it's like you know, even at the time she was laughing when I said it. Like but again, that's another like real thing that happened. That whatever.
Yes, yeah, and that goes back to that initial like, how do you translate what you do in front of your friends or family or your girlfriend? That's like, you know, like, oh, that was funny, that got a really good reaction, and then when you tell it immediately, you go like, that was not the same reaction.
Yep.
You know, and then you have to think like for a little bit, like, how do I translate it? And then sometimes maybe it's just not. Maybe you can't.
Dude, this is what I wanted to ask you. And I'm glad I remembered, because this is when I started bringing up this topic. How happy are you? I hope you're happy. You might, maybe you're not. But for me, I am. How happy are you that you didn't start in LA?
I'd say, you know, I'm pretty happy that I didn't. Like I'm
happy that literally when I say start, I'm happy that like the first time I went on stage wasn't here.
Oh yes, and I am. I think well for a couple of reasons. I think part of it is it's good to just get that experience of what works with one audience and what doesn't with another. I mean, like, not that if you like your first time up on stage is, you know, a room in, you know, Silver Lake or Los Feliz or Echo Park, somewhere like that, and you have these jokes that are kind of catered to that, you know, you might have this great experience because you're more maybe like you didn't tell as many jokes, but you're just like, oh, I'm kind of speaking my truth and giving like observations. I almost think it's better when you start off somewhere where you're just like, I don't know if these people are gonna like me, you know, because then you're like, well, they don't have to like me.
And also, like, there is a thing of like you are doing something that makes you want to stand out, and I think you stand out a little more when you like aren't from, like, you know, you are like you're product of your environment in that sense of like, you know what I mean?
I'm glad. Let's just say this. I'm glad that.
And that doesn't. There's a bunch of comics from LA that are hilarious. Like, that's good.
No, there are.
But I'm just saying it is something that makes you stand out a little more.
Well, it gives you your own little, you know, persona. You know, I often think about that, like how much of, you know, which material does great out here, but like if I go back to Iowa and do a set, is that going to be something where someone's just like, yeah, that's what we do. You know what I mean? When they're like, I don't see the humor in that.
And you don't want to cater to your audience, but you do want to make the room in front of you laugh.
Yeah, I mean we say we don't want to cater to our audience, but isn't that what we do every time we get on stage?
I mean, I texted you on Saturday, and I was like, "It's all old people," and then you had that when you were like, "Oh, I can't wait them to hear you do, that joke," and I wasn't gonna do it. I ended up I threw it in for you. I swear to God, I wasn't gonna do it.
Did it? Well, how'd it go?
It was laughs, and it was laughs, but not usually how good it does. You know what I mean? Usually that's like a killer, and it got laughs, and then I just go, you guys know what I mean, and then that made everyone die because like they didn't know. They almost were like, should I laugh? And then I was like, yeah, come on. And I was like, come on, we're at a comedy club. And then they because they were all old people, and they were kind of like, and so I got people to like, and I went up there and crowd worked way more. Like I kind of changed my I changed my set. Like I was like, I'm gonna, I didn't do like as many I didn't do like the R. Kelly joke and stuff because I'm like, these old people don't fucking know. Like,
I don't know who R. Kelly.
Yeah, so I changed my set a little bit, but
I think you're also underestimating how old we are.
Definitely.
And like when you're like, these old people won't know who R. Kelly is, and I'm like, oh, people in their 50s probably know who R. Kelly is.
The funniest part is I texted Sean and I even texted Drew after, and I was dying because it was like all old white people. Like the one white girl who was like a lesbian in the back, she was like, my parents in the audience, I'm all nervous and stuff, and I was like, that's cute. You know what I mean?
You're like, I'm about to fuck their night up.
Yeah, I was like, your parents are gonna hate me. No, but it was funny and it was all like old white people. Like the one lady was like literally old enough to be my grandma. And I did the I hit a woman once joke, and she was dying, and I was like, that's my grandma. I just threw in like shit like that. And like they loved it. But so it was all like old white people, and there was like one like young like black couple in the crowd, and they were the one people that like after the show I was like in the back, drinking a beer or whatever, and they came out and they were like, oh man, you're hilarious, like blah blah blah, and I was like, good, because you're the younger black couples, the more the demographic I was going for. But like I did well in front of everyone, but like I was like, it's funny that you guys are the one people that came up to me after.
Yeah you're like, I'm not trying to do the full-on casino circuit just yet.
So this is usually because it always goes in for a little longer because of the questions I'm going to ask usually get bigger answers, which I'm expecting, but just like a little fun questionnaire round of just like stuff that I'm just like, and I usually just like to ask people because it's fun. You know what I mean? Some of them are hopefully the guests aren't getting sick of, because I'll think of some new ones here, I'm sure. But so what's your favorite TV show of all time? It could be animated, it could be whatever. Like I always say like Dragon Ball Z is like maybe mine. Like, but like if you had one show, what would it be?
South Park.
South Park.
It is hands down. That's one that doesn't get old. It's still
good.
Me up. I can throw up. I will say, but the thing is that maybe that shows why that it's my favorite show. That even I know the newer stuff is like, I get it. These guys have been at it for 20 some years. It might not be as good as it was 10, 15 years ago. I still watch.
Yeah.
I will get streaming subscription services just to watch. I got what's it on, like Paramount Plus, all the new stuff, and I'm like, I can do it for a month. I've had it for like 3 months just to see when new South Park comes out. So South Park.
So that's a softball, right? That's a softball. And I gotta say, on the last couple episodes you were watching, which I hope you are, I gave too many softball questions. I want to ask some more funny questions, I feel like. Out the box questions. So I'm going to mix in some more of like just regular ones. The one that I always ask everyone, it's my favorite question to ask everyone. I maybe should ask it last, but I'm going to ask it now because I already built it up. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. Time travel with no repercussions.
Ooh, so you could just like get there, you don't have to worry about like the butterfly effect.
No, yeah, exactly. That would be my main thing, like no butterfly effect.
See, I love asking that question because that's such a cool answer. I've never had no one ever gives me the same question or answer, but that's a very unique one.
I would have that like the Men in Black thing that I would just go back, fuck shit up, and then be like.
So you want to be like visible and like be able to interact in the universe.
I want to be visible for sure. Like and I mean. I would probably start off. I'd probably do like lame stuff, like just go back to points in my life and be like, "All right, buddy, I'm you from the future. Yeah, do this." You know what I mean? Like Inception myself.
Don't talk to her.
Exactly. Like, don't talk to her. Don't ask her out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That's funny.
or be like, dude, she.
Yeah.
Go for that. Don't get in your head.
I hooked up with a girl in college that ended up winning the lottery. Imagine if I would have.
Did you really? Damn, like Powerball?
She tweeted, "I won the lottery." Then
that's dumb.
But
that's a dumb
But listen,
person.
this is how you know she actually won. Then deleted it.
Okay.
Then I follow her on like Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. See, she moves to like, or yeah, she moves to San Diego. This might have been before she moved to San Diego. She moved to like Europe for like she did like you lived in Europe for like a year,
Of course.
and then moves to San Diego and now just like volunteers. And I'm like, you absolutely definitely actually won that.
Holy shit! What you went?
It must have been a bunch. And she was already like hot as fuck and like, you know what I mean, just like not the person that needed it.
No, now she's probably selling fucking Advocare or some other.
I think
health
she's like
product.
which is good for her. I think she just volunteers and she has probably like hundreds of millions of dollars. So
I
good for
prefer
her.
that to someone who was like, so I'm a rep for Advocare now.
Yeah.
You know, I much prefer.
That's a very cool superpower though that you mentioned. I'd never that's why I love asking. I hope the viewers don't get sick of me asking that question, but I just think it's always a cool like. And put in the comments, what would your favorite be?
Exactly.
If you're still with us, yeah, I always say mine just to say. Again, they're probably sick of it, but just so you know, for conversation points, I always say that mine would be teleporting for sure. Like I don't want to.
That's a good one. You know, you might say like you said, people give the same answer. I'm like, but that is a good one.
Yeah.
That is a really good one.
Yeah.
Not only just the cost it would save you, but you get to do so much cool shit.
And the time it would save you too. Like you just literally be like, I could be like, oh, I'm at the comedy store. Oh, I'm back home. I'm at Flappers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, in LA with that traffic, yeah. I mean, that's a very.
I mean, what an entrance! I'm on stage.
That's a very good. Snap fingers. Very good. It's a very good.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I would definitely. That's my favorite. And people are always like, "Wouldn't you want to fly?" I'm like, "Fuck no, fly! I want to be there
how
right
fast
now."
can you fly?
Yeah,
that's the thing. If someone's like, you can fly, but at around
I would fly so fast that my skin would rip
hour.
off. Yeah, I mean,
25 miles an hour. You're like, so I float.
Yeah,
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to float.
I said fly, not float.
Exactly. They're like, well, yeah, same thing.
That's fucking funny as shit. All right. We'll keep going on. This is one of the funnier questions that I've kind of been like, I thought of it right now. I thought of that I needed to ask more funny questions, but this will be. So if you could like go out in a blaze of glory doing any kind of like crime, what would it be? Like if you had like, would it be like bank robbery? Would it be like, you know, fucking whatever?
I would have completed what our comrades on January 6th started. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
What if you just went full QAnon on me?
I'd succeed where we left off. No,
That was
shit. That's a good question. Go ahead, please, glory. I mean, I've watched enough like westerns and bank robber shit to be like, oh, that'd be I guess dope. But I feel like that would be something where like Bonnie and Clyde, right, or like Dillinger or something like that. Where you're like, oh, isn't that cool? And then you get shot, and I go, ow, that actually hurts. This is not fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think like wouldn't it be cool? But I'm like, no, I would lay there, like dying, not dead, dying, and be like, I'm in a lot of pain. So, no. And where does this money go? I don't know. There's no wills. Don't act like Bonnie and Clyde had a fucking backup plan. They didn't buy life insurance.
Just the best, like, 3-month vacation of your life.
Exactly. So, no, I would say I go out in a blaze of glory. I don't know. Like,
you can play the slow game. Like, I for me, example, I think I would do, I think I'd go, like, the Pablo Escobar route and just try to, like, get as big as I could and, like, the Tony, you know, the Tony Montana.
How did he, I'm sorry, I guess I don't know. How did he actually die?
Pablo, he got shot on a rooftop by the Cumberland police. Got chased down on a rooftop and shot.
Through the head?
I think they lit him up in his body. He was like on, you know, because at that point he was blowing up fucking commercial airliners and shit. He was out of his mind. So he was like a full-on like terrorist at that point because he was just killing innocent people just to keep to stay alive. And so got to the point where he was literally living in like some hideout, and he basically got Osama bin Laden. Basically, he was like he ran on some rooftop and they gunned him down. They do the fucking Colombian police are savage. There's pictures of like them with his holding up his body and shit.
Damn.
Oh yeah, he got gunned down.
I don't know if I would do anything that.
That's like a full circle of like he was. He was so, you know, if you know Pablo, like he was so wealthy they let him build his own prison for himself.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, he was like, I'll go to jail, but I get to make the jail. And they were like, all right, yeah.
Our architects.
And so he was just still, and then he made it into a fortress. So then then it was like they just fucking made a fortress. Yeah, it's crazy.
I would say like it's something badass. I mean, in like your mind, you think like, oh, me fighting an animal, would be fun. But I'm like, no, I would just get my ass kicked, and that's how I would go out. So no, I don't want to do that. I don't know. Probably something lame. Probably like going like to the moon and then just taking off my helmet. Like, remember, was that Armageddon where the dude? No, what was the movie? It was one of them fucking space movies where the dude like takes his helmet off and then his like face freezes and then he just like floats out into space. Was it Mission to Mars?
That's a
Ghost
wild
on?
one.
No, not Ghost. I was about to say Ghost on Mars, and I'm like, no, that's that Ice Cube piece of shit movie where they fight like monsters on Mars. I've seen a lot of dumb movies, so something like that where I think that would be fun. I would like set up a chair. I would be like, okay, you can send me to the moon, but I'm taking the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones with me, and then I'm going to go out onto that Iron Throne. I'm going to take my helmet off. I'm going to die in that fucking throne on the moon, and I'll never move. No, there's no wind, nothing that'll ever move me, so I'll just be there forever.
That's pretty cool.
And then the next person who comes there, they're gonna be like, what did this asshole do? So I don't know, something like that. It sounds kind of cool, but it might be a little lame because I would just take my helmet off and then die.
Who's your favorite comedian of all time?
Ooh, favorite comedian of all time. I guess I would just go with like I know some.
This is the way I say it. This is actually the better one I could say. Who's your starting five? No look order, and then you get a six man.
That is a better way.
Okay.
Way better way. Very sports centric, but it's.
I knew you'd like it. This is my first time doing that question, so again, I'm
that's-
trying to get the questions
no,
better.
no,
People
that's great.
know that I'm thinking about you guys.
Basketball is a good one for that.
Yeah.
At least it's better than like football. You know, then I'm like, who's my starting defense? Offense,
Yeah, so
special teams,
no
like,
order because it's like a team.
top five. Okay, and then a bench player.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably.
And your bench player's not. He's in the same category, but he's just someone that like it's like the guy can't cut out.
Okay. Well, the one who I will always be a fan of, the one who got like when I like saw that, I was like, I want to do that. Tom Segura.
Okay. He loves doing Pittsburgh. He's always in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's.
That's the
so
plane
I've
ride he
seen
met
him.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's right.
Going to
That was
Pittsburgh
amazing.
Improv.
I saw him at Funny Bone in Des Moines. He crushed. It was so good. So I would
Tommy
say,
Buns.
Yeah, Tommy Buns. Honestly, I'm a big Roy Scovel fan.
Okay.
Huge Roy, and he's been doing like for like the next month, every Monday night he's doing a show at the Elysian where he's just working out an hour.
You were telling me about that.
Yeah. So
That's one I love too. Because like this is another reason I love that. That's a very one hasn't been on anybody else's list. So there you go.
He's great. I love Roy Scovel. God, let me go. Who else? Any more? Sam Morril. I just watched his new special. Great.
It's funny you said that. He's one of those people I told you about that like my older brother's really into stand up, and I told him about Sam, and now he's like one of his favorites, and that's one of those ones where like he didn't know about him, and now I'm like I showed you.
Yeah. Mark Norman.
Okay, so it kind of very like Sam.
Yes,
They're similar.
there's that group of like New York comics that I love. Probably let's go. If I'm going to like the fifth person, I need a veteran. They're all veterans.
I was gonna say you got a lot of newbies on the list.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I need like an old school like vet.
You're looking young, Grayson. You're looking young.
I am looking young. Yeah. I love Bill Burr. Is it gonna be more of a vet?
I mean, I think he's the middle ground.
He's middle ground. Okay, but like a vet who you're like he's still got some years left in him. He's not just there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You haven't said anyone who's not doing stand-ups currently, so that's crazy.
Well, then probably 6 Rodney Dangerfield. I do love Rodney.
There you go.
I still do.
Yeah,
I was like, well,
but I like the
right now I'm just reeling off like who if you were like
no, that's a good list.
Show me a bit right now. Who would I bring up?
I like that you because I feel like and even me like I get nostalgic and I do put like a lot of like older people, you know what I mean? Like Richard Pryor's on my list, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah, Richard. Yeah,
like I put Jim Carrey in there and like because like
yeah, they're all great.
Because like I don't even know if I would, just like he was a stand-up and he is like I think he's my favorite actor of all time. Even if I had to pick an actor, if you got to pick an actor, who would your actor be?
Oh, my favorite actor.
Mine's Jim Carrey.
Well, again, I'd probably break it down between dramatic and comedic, but probably the person who could go in between the two. I mean, Robin Williams. Probably.
Great pick.
That probably counts for comic as well. But if you're like straight
Well, no,
dramatic,
Robin's probably a better pick for what I'm talking about than even Jim is. Like he did stand up forever. You know what I mean, like Jim kind of stopped doing stand up when he became a leading man. Like Robin never really did.
Yeah, I will say though, like there are certain actors who, if they do a movie, I'm like, I'm gonna watch that shit. Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
That dude, whatever he does, I know he's gonna beat wholesale ass in it. So that's just like
true.
I'm always for. And honestly, look, I'm The Rock. If The Rock, whatever The Rock does, I'm probably gonna watch. Like it's just, I don't care. I watched that San Andreas. I watched Rampage. I watch all of it just because I'm like, is The Rock gonna probably hit people? Yeah, so I'll watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got to the point where I'm just like, he's like he like Nick Caged it. I'm like, you can't be in everything.
Exactly, but he's
like,
more buff Nick Cage, so I
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would say any of it. Did you watch Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast and the Furious one?
No, again, we're one. It's just like I used to love Fast and Furious, and the last one that I watched and it was a good one was the first one with The Rock, and then I was just like, okay, it's run its course.
That's Fast 5. That was great.
I was like, I'm watching the first 5 are great.
Vin Diesel and The Rock fighting was like Clash of the Titans, dude.
It's my Eskimo bro, Vin.
Yeah, that's my brother. Dude, when I watched Hobbs and Shaw, I went in theaters to see it when I lived in Phoenix with 2 friends, and I knew that it was kind of a batshit movie when it blew out one of the speakers in the theaters.
Dude,
and I was like, "This how I know
this is another great question, and we'll stick to the same thing. What's the most obscure movie you ever saw in theaters?
Obscure movie I saw in theaters?
Like, for example, mine's Norbit.
Didn't see that one in theaters.
I saw Norbit in theaters.
See that one in theaters. That's funny. That is an obscure one.
At the time, we knew it too. We're like,
I don't know, dude. I told you that I went with my uncle to see Enough with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, that is weird.
And that's odd.
Yeah, that
but
might
again,
be
it wasn't one that I was like, we should go see Enough.
You should have just been like, I already told you.
Yeah, that's your. I think even any other one, like I'm very picky with like movies. If someone's like, hey, you should go see this in theaters, I'm like, there's like certain criteria. There's like I will flat out tell somebody like, yeah, no, I don't think that's what I'm gonna see in theaters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there are certain movies where I'm like, I will go. Like I would say I went and saw that Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers movie about old time Hollywood. You know, and I love the Coen Brothers, but like I saw it and afterwards I just went, that wasn't that great. Not as good as some of the other. Like I still, Oh Brother Where Art Thou is one of my favorite movies of all time.
100%.
And Big Lebowski's up there as well.
Hell yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna go see it because of those reasons, you know. And then I went and saw it and was like, okay, that was okay. But like, it wasn't that random because it was a Coen Brothers movie. So it's like that. I guess it makes sense for me why I would go see it.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's just like a movie that just wasn't very good. You know what? Actually. But again, this isn't. I don't think it's random. It's just like going to shitty movies in the theater.
Yeah, I've been.
My girlfriend in college wanted to go see one of those fucking Nicholas Sparks books they turned into a movie that sucked. Not the Notebook. That was the only good one. The rest of them all sucked. This one was with Julianne Hough. Whatever.
All I can think about now is Ryan Gosling.
I wish I could think about Ryan Gosling. This movie sucked. This movie was so bad.
You an Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan?
Love it.
When they're talking about playing them, and who would play them in a movie, and Max like probably Ryan Gosling, and Charlie gets all drunk later, and he's like, Ryan Gosling playing you? Ridiculous.
Yeah, I do that. That is a show I truly do love, and it's amazing. Like, usually when I talk to any person I've talked to through stand-up, likes that show.
That show always holds a special spot in my heart because every Thursday, everyone on my block would go to my friend's house and we'd like go get high in his minivan before and then go watch it. And it's like on a Thursday in high school, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
So it was always a big like that was like such a awesome like thing. And his mom would like make us like pepperoni rolls and shit. And it was just great.
Simpler times.
Simpler times.
Better times. I don't know about better. Simpler for sure.
On that note, do you have anything you want to end with? You want to like I know you're on Instagram. You want to plug any of your stuff?
I guess if you want to follow me, it's at the Grayson Taylor, like the Ohio State, even though I hate Ohio State, but that was the main reason I did that. Other than that, shows. Yeah, I did it because of Ohio State, but shows coming up. I don't have any to like plug right now, but like
just follow us on Instagram and then you'll see his next.
Follow us on Instagram, yeah, and I'll be posting whenever I got a show coming up.
Hopefully we'll do one together soon.
I'm hoping, man.
Yeah.
I don't think we've done one yet.
No, I'm doing my first one with Sean on Tuesday. These girls that we know that do like stand up and everything too. She like just randomly hit me up and they do like a really cool show that's called Cat Moms Comedy, like Britt and Chloe, if you know them. And they hit me up, and I was telling Sean, I was like, oh, like you got to come out when I do it. And he's like, I'm on the same show. So we're finally doing the same show. It's on.
Nice.
You should come out. It's actually a week from today. It's next Tuesday and we both get to do 10 minutes. So, and I think there's
Awesome.
only like 4 comics. So
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I'll come out. We'll have to do one. Yeah. Well, I've had friends do stuff at the Glendale room, and that's been a lot of fun. So, and they're always looking for people to produce. So we should definitely get on a
100%.
think about producing something, and get a show out there. So
All right, guys, that's episode 3 of Sense of Humor TV. Thanks so much for coming, Grayson. That was a
Thanks
fucking
for having
great
me.
time. Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time. Sense of Humor TV out.